Moonlow, what up?
Welcome back, Guardian. I hope you're enjoying Shadowkeep as much as I am. I think this is one of the best DLCs Bungie has put out to date since Destiny 2 has started, and I'm happy to go back to the moon. I was kind of iffy if it was going to feel like a complete circle like it did in D1, but I got to give them hands down great job on making the moon feel like an actual beast-ass planet. Now, I want to talk about some stats today, but I want to be very clear about this, that I don't have everything to test with yet. So I still have to get a ton of other mods to do a lot of different kind of testing, and I'm not near the max light the game is going to be offering. So when I did my testing on resilience, I'm only able to use patrol for now, but from the many hours of testing that I did in the 1.0 builds and all of Destiny 2 and then D1, I have a pretty good idea that I'm right on how the resilience is going to be once we're max light. We're going to talk about mobility, a little bit about recovery, and a little bit about resilience, just to give you an idea, and then go over some stats on some armor, the kind of stats that I'm going to be looking for, that maybe will give you a heads up on what you can be looking for when you're building out your guarding to make sure it's optimized for the kind of battle and stuff that you're going to be doing in this game. So let's get started. We'll start with the armor first. So when it comes to the type of armor you're looking for, this is the only piece that I've found so far, and it's actually off of my 1.0 armor. It's high mobility, high recovery, more discipline and strength and intellect. I'm not really focused that much on intellect. I might get a little bit of it, but I know that through combat, your super recharge is going to be reduced because of that. Plus, if you have perks like Light Reactor, that's going to be on your mark or your bond or your cloak. But like I said, supers are not really the main thing I'm focused on. I'm mainly wanting to get my abilities back and make sure my mobility and my recovery are right. We're going to go over stats like recovery next. But keep in mind, this game is going to be hella grindy. Once you start doing the legendary type Nightfalls, that's where you're going to start collecting the type of exotics you need that had the right elemental affinity. So you can put Nezarec Sin on, your Doomfangs on, your Crown of Tempest. This game is going to be all about leveling you up as a player by doing harder activities and grinding out that perfect gear to finally get the right stats that you need to build your perfect armor set. So it's going to be a long road ahead of you, and me as well, and we're all going to learn this stuff together. But I want to talk about recovery. We'll start with that next, then go to resilience, and then go to the mobility. For those of you who were part of the live stream, I was doing recovery, resilience, and mobility tests during that using a stopwatch. And then when I actually got this in the editor, I was testing out the recovery, and I noticed that it actually doesn't change from the 1.0 armor. I thought I was testing it at 5.3 seconds when I was doing the in-game live stream, but when I actually pulled it in this editor, it actually comes back at 6 seconds, which is exactly what it was on 1.0 armor. So you get no difference at tier 10 versus 2.0 and 1.0 armor sets. This is where I tested tier 9 to see if there was any change in that. It's around 6.4 seconds, the same as 1.0, which kind of shocks me that they increased the difficulty on those legendary statuses on the Nightfalls, but they didn't make the 2.0 in recovery change at all. I felt like we should have at least gained like a half a second or a full second by sacrificing mod slots to get to there. I feel like 2.0 should have been better in that aspect, considering the difficulty that they increased on the game. Now let's talk about resilience, because this actually did change in the game versus the 1.0, which I was kind of shocked, but I'm still not too shocked because it's really not that great once you zoom in and take a look at it. Keep in mind, I'm only testing it against patrol type activities, which means the harder the activity, the less resilience will actually help you out. So here's a tier 2 right here on resilience. Now I'm going to go up to a tier 3, then a 4, and then jump it up to 7. So here's tier 3 right here. We're just going to do melee test damage against the little dude right here, and that is tier 3. And then I'll go back to the tier 2 so you can check that out. And you can see the difference is pretty much non-existent. Now let's crank it up to a tier 4 and then test it against a tier 7 and see if there's any difference at all. And sorry about the rain in the background. I can't help what Mother Nature wants to do when I'm trying to make a damn video. So wait for this guy to melee me. We'll see what the tier 4 damage is like on the melee, if I can get this dude to do it. So there is the tier 4 damage. Now we'll test against the tier 3 and then a tier 2, which you can see there's really no difference at all versus 2, 3, and 4. Now let's go up to tier 7 and see if there's a difference in that. Then we'll go to some Radiolaria and try it out against Radiolaria and see where the difference comes. But I'll go ahead and tell you, it seems like when you hit 7, that's when your resilience really starts counting. As you can see the melee damage right here, and here it is versus the 4, and then here it is versus the 3, and then here it is versus the 2. So you can see when it starts getting to 7, that's when you start getting those little bit of chunks back that start helping you out in your damage recovery. But like I said, this is against patrol adds. That little bitty pinch of health gets eaten the hell up versus harder AI and more difficult activities. I also tested the 7 versus 2 against this Vandal right here, and it actually took 21 shots to bust my shield at 7 resilience, And then at the 2 resilience, it took 19 until my shield got busted. But like I said, those little pinches of health are so small versus patrol ads, and you get it. It's not really going to help you in harder activities. Now let's go over to Radiolaria and see what the difference is from what it used to be in 1.0. When it came to doing all these resilience tests, I spent so much time doing this in year 1 and all the 1.0 armor and stuff, so I know the knowledge versus that and versus this, and I can kind of eyeball what resilience is going to be in in-game activity just by knowing all the data from year 1 basically and how it's changed in the year 2. I can kind of just tell you the difference without having to be max light and things like that. It all is kind of playing around the same, but it's increased a tiny bit. You see at 3 resilience, it was 8 ticks to bust shield, 13 to kill me. Now we're testing it at 4, and it's also going to be another 8 ticks, and it's also going to kill me at 13 ticks. Same as it was with 3 and 4. Now let's go up to 5 resilience and see if we get any kind of change there. In 1.0, it took 9 resilience just to gain an extra tick of damage. Now let's go up to 5 resilience and see if there's any change at all. So let's jump inside of it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now 9 at 5 resilience, and then it kills me still at 13 ticks. So we actually gained 1 more tick before breaking shield at 5 resilience, which used to take 9 resilience just to get that extra tick before the broke shield, and that 1 extra tick before killing us. Now we're at a 6 resilience, and you'll see that it also takes 9 to break shield, and then still 13 to kill me. So it looks like 1 through 4 are about the same in resilience. 5 and 6 will actually give you 1 more tick, but takes the same amount of ticks to kill you. Now let's go up to 7 resilience and see what happens now. So this is a 7 resilience. We're about to jump inside of this Radiolaria. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 break shield, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 at 7 resilience. So we gained an extra tick before dying and an extra tick of breaking shield. That's pretty awesome actually, because it used to take, like I said, 9 resilience just to get those results. Now let's try it out at 9 resilience and see what the difference is from 7 to 9 and then 10. So here we are jumping in at 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 7, 8, and 9 are all the same. Now let's go to 10 resilience, do the exact same thing again, and see if we gain any extra ticks, which would be 15 if we did, and then any extra damage before breaking shield, which would be 10 if 10 resilience worked. So now let's jump into it and see exactly how many ticks it takes to break. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Still 14. So it seems like 7 to 10 resilience functions around the same when it comes to burn damage. Now what I want to do is see what the damage is and how much health you're actually getting as far as like how much on the meter. 1 versus 10 resilience. This is at 1 resilience with 4 ticks. Pay attention to that small, almost invisible line below the health meter. I'll try to put an arrow at it to show you a little bit better once it pops up again. And here's 10 resilience with 4 ticks, 3, 4, and then jumping out. This little line right there, you can barely see it, but it's underneath the health recover meter, and that is the difference between 1 and 10 resilience. You can kind of see it. I'm sorry, it's really hard to see, but that's the amount of health you get from 1 to 10. It's not even really an inch. It's about half of an inch of health. But I want to show you now at the broke shield stage at 1 resilience. So I'm going to break my shield, the first tick that breaks it, and jump out. And then I'm going to take the same amount of ticks, which was 8 ticks at 10 resilience. That was 8 ticks at 1. Now let's do the same test using 10 resilience at 8 ticks. Seven, 8. Now let's jump out, and this is the difference between 1 and 10 resilience. There's 10, and then here is 1. Pay attention to that small white line so you have a point of reference to tell you how much exact health you're getting from 1 to 10 resilience. It's still not much health, but it's a lot more than it was in 1.0. But considering all the resources it takes to hit 10 resilience, you're wasting mobility, you're wasting recovery points, which are way more beneficial. However, in PvP, I think it's actually going to be more beneficial than it used to be in the Crucible. But in PvE, I would still recommend just keeping it out of your armor builds. Having more fluency for mobility and having that recovery to get your health back actually equals your resilience. If you watch the Power of Rusto builds video that I made in Armor 1.0, it still is relatable to the 2.0. So check that out if you want to understand how your recovery is actually manufacture your resilience, because you actually recover health while you're getting chipped away at damage. And then when you have high resilience, you sacrifice having high recovery or high mobility, and you end up just dying because having that resilience doesn't give you any health back as you're getting chipped away over and over again. So like I said, just keep that in mind. Those that saw me doing this during the live stream, I know a lot of people don't believe my resilience tests sometimes, but I did all this stuff when I was live streaming the other night. So those of you got to see it for yourself firsthand, kind of what goes into all this testing and things like that, and how tedious it is trying to make everything in every situation, and all the ads shoot you right, or they won't throw grenades, or where some dude won't come by and shoot the ad you're trying to test it against and things like that. It's a lot of bullshit work, to be honest with you, but I want to get that out there so it helps you Guardians out, kind of make more sense of what kind of builds you're trying to build out for, and get you some strong builds when it comes to those legendary type Nightfalls to get you that sweet ass loot. Having the right kind of build on with the right recharge rates and the right stats can equal life or death when it comes to beating the shit out of some ads. So for the next test, I want to try out mobility, but not really the whole thing about mobility, because I don't have the right gear set up for it to go all the way to 10 yet. I don't have any mobility mods to put on or anything like that. However, UTEPers got the traction mod, and I wanted to test out if traction would give you an extra tier like it used to do in Armor 1.0, and that's what I want to show you next. I used to get quite a few people that would tell me that traction did not add a +1 to your mobility, so I was so happy, and this is that footage from the live stream that we did this live stream, so some people got to see that for themselves, and I got to show them right in their face. So here's 2 mobility without traction at tier 2 mobility. You can see the peak of the sword goes below that mountain. Now here is tier 2 with traction on. You can see that the peak of that sword is going to the peak of that mountain. So what that means actually is that tier 2 in traction is actually 3 mobility. It still works the same as it did in Armor 1.0. After we established that, what I had him do was put on 3 mobility and take the traction off to see if it was still the same height as 2 mobility with traction on. So here's the jump height with 3 mobility without the traction. Here's the jump height with 2 mobility with the traction. It's the exact same height. And here's 2 mobility without the traction on. So there you go. So what all that means is, if you have traction on your Guardian, whatever tier your mobility says it's at, add 1 whole tier to your mobility. So if you have 8 plus traction, you're actually at tier 9. 9 plus traction is actually at tier 10. However, I'm not sure if you can go above 10. You used to could not go above 10. It had to be 10 and nothing, basically. It would not let you go above the 10. But I don't know if also mobility got a buff, so I don't know if the old 9 is the new 10, or 10 is actually a new tier or whatever. I don't know if it's faster or, you know, jump higher kind of thing. I don't know if it's the same mobility that it used to be overall, basically. So you might actually get a whole lot faster Guardian that jumps higher and strafes a lot faster than the old tier 10 or old 10 mobility used to do for you. I'm still not clear on that because I don't have any mobility mods to check it out, but I do know for 100% fact, and those of you who saw that live stream also saw, that whatever your mobility says, if you have traction on, it's actually a whole tier higher than whatever your mobility says. So if it says you're at tier 1 with traction's a tier 2, if you have no mobility on but traction, you're at a 1. If you have 3 tier and you have traction on, you're at a 4. So just understand that and just know that that's the truth, alright? Anyways, Guardians, today's video is sponsored by LifetimeControllers.com. If you need a new control and you're done paying those new controller prices, you can literally buy a control from them for lower costs than any competitor, and you can get a lifetime warranty on it to never pay full price ever again because it's covered for your entire life. You even have the ability to customize your own control or try their new soft shell cool touch controllers that keeps your hands dry, nice and comfy at LifetimeControllers.com. I'm really enjoying Shadowkeep. I'm trying to get my grind going while still pushing out more content so you can know what you're doing when you're building your Guardian, how the stats and everything's all working. But with time, we'll all get this figured out and get a lot more content out to help you all bros go beast mode. My name is Ristopoulos. If you want to hit subscribe, definitely do that. If you want to join our beast squad, click that join button. You can also hit me up at teespring.com/Ristopoulos to help me out, and donation support at paypal.me/Ristopoulos. Again, it's my pleasure to help you all out. I will see you all again in many more videos to come, so stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next video next time.
In space.